Hey, I want you to picture this. It's Monday morning. You open Google, you search your firm's name, and right there, under your name, under everything you've built, there's a brand new one-star review. And the person writing it says you didn't care about their case, you never returned their calls, and they'd never recommend you to anyone. Your stomach drops. You're pissed. You think, I worked that case. I got them a decent outcome. What are they even talking about? But here's the hard truth. That review is probably not about the outcome. It's about the experience. And the reason most criminal defense firms keep getting hit with bad reviews is not bad lawyering. It's a broken client experience and inconsistent communication. The good news? That's fixable. That's a system problem, not a character problem. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. Hey, if this is your first time here, welcome. My name's Dave Revere. I'm the founder of Legal Tamer and author of Unlocking New Client Acquisition for Defense Lawyers. We help criminal defense firms grow through better marketing, intake, and follow-up systems. And we do it all in precise phases designed to make it affordable for any practice. Okay, let's talk about why defense firms get bad reviews, the real reasons, and the exact system to prevent them and recover when they happen. Before we get into the fix, I need to acknowledge something. Criminal defense has a review problem that's different from almost any other industry. Think about who your clients are in the moment they're working with you. They're scared, they're stressed. A majority of them are dealing with the worst experience of their life. They might be facing jail time, loss of their professional license, loss of custody, public humiliation. The emotional stakes are as high as it gets. And here's the thing about criminal cases. The outcomes are often not what the client hoped for. Even when you do an exceptional job, even when you negotiate a plea that saves them from prison, the client might still feel like they lost. A DUI client who gets their charges reduced to reckless driving might still be upset because they have a record. A felony client who avoids prison time might still be angry because they're on probation for 3 years. You are operating in an environment where your clients are emotionally volatile, the stakes are sky high, and even a good outcome can feel like a bad one. That's the reality. And it means that if there's any gap in communication, any moment where the client feels ignored or confused or in the dark, that gap gets filled with anxiety. And anxiety turns into resentment, and then that resentment turns into a one-star review. So let's talk about the actual root causes of bad reviews for defense firms. And I promise you, it's almost never about the case results. Root cause number one is lack of proactive communication. This is the big one. The number one reason defense attorneys get bad reviews is that clients feel like they don't know what's happening with their case. And here's the thing, from the attorney's perspective, there might be nothing happening. The case is waiting for a court date. Discovery hasn't come back yet. There's nothing to report, but the client doesn't know that. They just know it's been 3 weeks and they haven't heard from their lawyer. So they call, they leave a message, they don't get a call back for 2 days. They call again, they get a paralegal who says, the attorney's in court, I'll have him call you. And another day goes by. Does this sound familiar? By the time the attorney finally calls back, the client is already frustrated. And that frustration compounds over the life of the case. Every unreturned call, every week of silence, every time the client has to chase their own lawyer for an update, it's just building. And when the case resolves, even if the resolution is good, that accumulated frustration is what they remember. That's what they review. Okay, root cause number two is failing to set expectations. Most defense attorneys don't spend enough time at the start of the engagement explaining what the process looks like, how long it will take, what the realistic outcomes are, how often the client will hear from the firm, what they should do if they have questions. When you don't set expectations, the client creates their own. And their expectations are almost always unrealistic. They think it'll be resolved in a few weeks. They think they'll hear from you every few days. They think you'll get the charges dropped entirely. And when none of that happens, not because you're not doing anything, but because that's not how criminal cases work, they feel let down, okay? Root cause number three is the post-resolution vacuum. Here's one that almost nobody talks about. The case is over. The client's case has been resolved, and then nothing. The engagement just kind of ends. No wrap-up call, no email summarizing the outcome and next steps. No, here's what to expect going forward. Nothing. The client walks away from the experience with no closure. And in that vacuum, whatever negative feelings they had during the process become the lasting impression. Contrast that with a firm that calls the client right after the resolution, walks them through the outcome, thanks them for their trust, and explains any remaining obligations. That's the impression that lasts. That's the client who leaves a 5-star review. Okay, so here's the system. This is the playbook that prevents bad reviews before they happen. First off, you absolutely must set those expectations on day one. During the onboarding is the ideal time right after the retainer is signed. Have a structured conversation with the client about what to expect. Cover these things explicitly. Here's roughly how long this process is likely to take. Here's what the possible outcomes look like, the realistic ones, not the best case fantasy. Here's how often you'll hear from us, and here's how you'll hear from us. Here's who to contact if you have questions. Give a specific name, a specific phone number, or an email. Here's what we need from you to do our best work. Put this in writing. Send it as an email after the conversation. I know this sounds like a lot of work, but it takes 15 minutes and it eliminates 80% of the frustration that leads to bad reviews. Because now, when the client hasn't heard from you in 2 weeks, they're not panicking. They know that's normal because you told them that up front. All right, the next step is to communicate proactively. Do not wait for your clients to call you. Set a reoccurring cadence at minimum every 2 weeks, where someone from your firm reaches out to the client with an update, even if there's nothing new, especially if there's nothing new. The update can be simple. Something like, "Hi, Maria, I wanted to touch base on your case. We're still waiting on the discovery materials from the DA's office, which we expect to receive in the next few weeks. Once we have those, I'll review them and schedule a call with you to discuss our next steps. If you have any questions, in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out." That takes 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and it completely changes the client's experience. They feel informed. They feel cared about. They feel like someone is on top of their case. That 2-minute email is the difference between a 1-star review and a 5-star review. And hey, if you have a CRM, and you should, you can automate reminders for these check-ins. Set a task that pops up every 2 weeks on each case for every active client. Don't leave it to memory, make it a system. Alrighty then, the next step is to follow up after a resolution. When the case is resolved, do 3 things. 1, call the client. Walk them through the outcome. Explain what it means. Explain any remaining obligations, probation requirements, classes, whatever it is. Answer their questions. Thank them for trusting your firm. 2, send a follow-up email summarizing everything you discussed on that call. This serves the same purpose as the post-consultation recap I talked about in the last video. It gives the client something tangible to reference, and it shows professionalism. 3, and this is where the review generation piece comes in. A few days after that resolution call, send a review request. Not on the same day. Give them a few days to absorb the outcome. Then reach out with a simple message. "Hi, John. We're glad we could help with your case. If you had a positive experience working with our firm, we'd really appreciate if you could leave us a brief review on Google. Here's the link." That timing is critical. You're asking for the review at the moment when the client has the most positive feelings, right after a personal resolution call where you showed care and professionalism, not months later when they've forgotten the details and only remember the stress. Okay, so let's talk a bit about what to do when a bad review hits. Despite your best efforts, bad reviews will happen. It's inevitable in criminal defense. Here's how to handle them. First, don't panic. One bad review among dozens of good ones is not going to destroy your business. What will hurt you is no response, or worse, an argumentative response. Second, respond publicly every single time. And here's the tone you want: professional, empathetic, and brief. Something like, "We're sorry to hear about your experience. We take client satisfaction seriously and strive to provide clear communication throughout every case. We'd welcome the opportunity to discuss your concerns directly. Please don't hesitate to reach out to our office." What you never ever do is argue. You don't dispute the facts. You don't reveal case details. You don't get defensive. You don't say, actually, we got you an amazing deal and you should be grateful, even if that's true. Because everyone reading that response, every potential client is watching how you handle criticism and they're judging you on it. If you respond with grace and professionalism, the bad review actually makes you look good. If you respond with defensiveness or hostility, it confirms everything the reviewer said. Okay, third, if the review violates Google's policy, if it's from someone who was never your client, if it contains threats, if it's clearly fake, flag it for removal. Google doesn't always act on these, but it's worth trying. Fourth, bury it. The best defense against bad reviews is volume. If you have 3 reviews and one of them is negative, that's a 33% negative rate. If you have 50 reviews and one of them is negative, that's 2%. It's a rounding error. This is why a systematic review generation process is so important. You need a steady stream of positive reviews flowing in so that the occasional negative one barely registers. So how do you start building a systematic review generation process? This should not be something you think about once a year. This should be a built-in part of your client experience, as routine as sending an invoice. Here's the system. Every time a case resolves, the resolution follow-up sequence includes a review request at the appropriate time. Your CRM should automate this. Client's case is marked resolved, the workflow triggers, and 3 to 5 days later, they receive a text and an email with a direct link to your Google review page. Not your Facebook page, not AVVO, Google. That's where it matters most for local visibility. For clients who had an especially positive experience, have the attorney or paralegal make a personal ask. John, it was great working with you. If you have a minute, it would mean a lot to us if you could leave a quick review on Google. A personal ask from someone the client has a relationship with converts at a dramatically higher rate than an automated email. Set a goal. If you're resolving 20 cases a month, you should be generating at least 5 to 8 new reviews per month. That's a 25 to 40% ask to review rate, which is very achievable if you're asking at the right time and making it easy. One question I get asked occasionally is why Google reviews matter more for defense firms. So yeah, Google reviews are not just a nice to have for criminal defense firms. They are arguably the single most important factor in whether a potential client calls you or calls your competitor. When someone searches DUI lawyer near me, they see the Google map path. They see 3 firms. Each one has a star rating and a review count. The firm with 120 reviews and a 4.8 star rating is getting the click. The firm with 11 reviews and a 4.2 is not. It's that simple. Reviews are also a ranking factor. Google's algorithm considers review quantity, quality, and recency when deciding which firms to show in the map pack. More reviews, better reviews, and newer reviews all push you higher. And here's the mindset shift I want you to make. Reputation management is not damage control. It's not something you do when a bad review hits. It's a marketing system. It runs all the time. It's proactive, not reactive, just like your intake system and your follow-up system. Your reputation system should be built into your operations as a standard part of how you serve clients. The firms that understand this, the ones that treat reviews as a system, are the ones dominating their local markets. And the firms that ignore it or only think about it when something goes wrong are the ones wondering why the phone isn't ringing. Hey, next week, I'm going to do something I've never done on this channel, walk you through an actual criminal defense firm marketing audit, the exact things I look at, the red flags I find most often, and what I'd fix first. If you want to know how your firm's marketing actually stacks up, you won't want to miss it. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe and leave a comment below. Here's my question. Have you dealt with unfair reviews? How do you handle them? I'd love to hear your approach, and I'll share my thoughts on any specific situations you want to bring up. If you know a fellow defense attorney who's struggling with their online reputation, send them this video. Case closed. I'll see you in the next one.